welcome back to my channel. If you're new here, we talk about the weird, wild, and somewhat worrisome. Today we're going to talk about St. Alban's Sanatorium in Radford, Virginia. St. Alban's has earned its reputation of being one of the most haunted places on the US East Coast. Touted by many paranormal investigators, St. Alban's might just be the most active. For over 100 years, St. Alban's was a mental institution, infamous for its severe emotional and physical abuse of its patients, and the numerous deaths and suicides. At the turn of the 20th century, it became a boys' school, where students were tormented by staff and encouraged to bully each other. A number of deaths have been recorded from that campus, including as well suicides. So where did it all start? Where did St. Alban's go so wrong? So according to the colonizers' story, originally it was home to the Powhatan, Shawnee, and Cherokee people, Iroquois-speaking First Nations people. Just imagine the following story that their land has been taken. They were settled on this land, and they had since been removed, pushed out of their homes by white Europeans, and pushed so far away, and so hard and so viciously that they had nowhere else to go. By the fall of 1755, they were fed up of being pushed around, and a group of angry Shawnee tribesmen descended on the small settlement of Draper's Meadow, the future site of St. Alban's. A number of settlers were murdered that day, and several people were taken hostage by the Shawnee. There were also several stories of scalping, though I couldn't corroborate that. One of the particular settlers that is most famously known is that of young Mary Draper. She was taken to what is now Kentucky and was forced to walk 800 miles to get home. Some of the spirits from that massacre still haunt today. And so it had a bloody start. In the late 19th century, the initial buildings were constructed. It opened first as a Lutheran school for boys, purportedly to train up the next generation of fine Southern gentlemen.
Where are you? Can you roll one of those balls down here to us? And I'll count to 5 and turn the light back on and see if you moved it. 1, 2, 3, sight.
However, the school quickly gained a reputation for its harsh treatment and the encouragement of bullying between students. To complicate matters further, it was a highly competitive school with a lot of athletic rivals. These young men were pushed to their brink. They were forced to win, and when they didn't, they were very heavily punished. While there are no official deaths on record, a number of deaths occurred on campus, including suicides. People even refused to send their children back to the school after learning about what had occurred while they were there. After being open for 20 years, in 1911 it was closed. But a lot was left behind in regards to dark energy and emotions. It then became St. Alban's Sanatorium. And by all means, it did sound like a nice facility where the patients could do farming, and there were many activities as well as treatments to help them get better. However, these treatments were not what they seemed. Just imagine that experimental back in this time literally meant that there were no trials other than human trials. So when we talk about trial and error medicine, it was literally life and death or torture to these patients. Oftentimes they had no anesthesia or pain medication, and some of these treatments included insulin coma therapy. Patients were repeatedly injected with large doses of insulin and left in a comatose state for several weeks. Electroconvulsive therapy, where small currents were passed through the brain, intentionally triggering a brief seizure. And hydroshock therapy, continuous hot or cold baths for several hours to days. Patients were often left alone after procedures, either strapped to a gurney or just put into a room. It did not solve any of their mental health issues, and in fact left them even worse off than before, if not dead. St. Alban's also struggled financially. Dr. King and his wife, who ran St. Alban's, actually increased the amount of patients they would take in and gradually expanded its services. Staff worked 6 days a week while living in provided quarters on campus. Total number of patients treated in its 29 years were 6,509 patients, and the total number of staff, 48. So let me break down each room, because each room has its own level of activity. St. Albans had a bowling alley. It is said that an evil entity inhabits the bowling alley, often seen with red eyes floating. Others claim to see the ghost of a little girl called Allie. She lingers there. It's thought that she may have been a patient's daughter that never left the hospital. Also the ghost of Gina Hall, who was murdered at St. Albans in 1980. She roams through the bowling alley. The hydrotherapy room. Another area of heavy paranormal activity at St. Albans is the hydrotherapy room. Here's where some of the worst treatments were carried out on patients. The term hydrotherapy sounds like a spa treatment, but I can promise you that it was anything but. The patients were wrapped tightly like mummies so they couldn't move, and they were bound to gurneys. They were also strapped into steaming pools of water, unable to move or escape. Sometimes they were left there for days at a time. Other patients were hosed violently with a fire hose and freezing cold water. It is here you'll find a bathroom called the suicide bathroom. After 4 reported deaths, it's seen its share of activity. Visitors say they feel an overwhelming presence, specifically in regards to 2 spirits, women who have taken their lives in this room. Some visitors have reported seeing full body apparitions of these victims, floating lights, and other paranormal activity. There have been recorded voices, and a lot of spirit boxes are very active in this room. Donald's room. Paranormal investigators have left Donald's room shaken and baffled. The story of Donald is that he was a maintenance worker on the St. Albans campus for boys. He was also a known pedophile. He expressed regular interest into luring boys into his room, where he wanted them to get into his closet. He's the worst tale of evil, where he would sexually assault them and ended up killing a young boy who was abandoned at the sanatorium. And that's just the ones that they reported on, as you can imagine. According to a paranormal expert, Donald spoke through a spirit box and confessed to his crimes.
Donald, you're the only one that can help yourself. What was the deal here?
He likes to play this little game called Light Up My Periscope, where if you bring a periscope and ask him to, he'll light it up for you. And then he was caught laughing on a spirit box when he was playing that game once with investigators.
What's that?
There are a number of other ghosts at St. Albans as well. Known to sing to investigators, Elizabeth is one of the many ghosts inhabiting the halls of this doomed place. Another is the grumpy old man, for his tendency to create loud noises and heavy footsteps. There's one particular story that I find quite interesting. It's of a boy called Shadow Eyes. Now, his real name is Richard Rollins. He was officially locked up in the Sanatorium throughout August and September. Specifically, Richard could see things that other people couldn't see, and he referred to one possible entity as the Creeper. Dr. Perry Mason recently came across his files and was able to share from the boy's file 2 doctors and 3 nurses that were present in the ECT room on August 20th, 1967, 9:32 a.m. All signed and swore that this was true. The Creeper actually manifested itself in the ECT room and shrouded the child from electrocution. They say that the child had entities with him throughout all of his stay. Richard was said to be an extremely powerful, clairsentient, empathetic child. Now that's directly from his files. Now Richard did actually leave the hospital, but it's possible that he left the Creeper behind. The attic. For such a large building, it's truly remarkable that St. Albans possesses so much activity in so many areas. Investigators have recorded disembodied voices, both male and female, calling out things like, "Be brief, get out, that's you, it's not good," and other strange phrases that don't really make a whole lot of sense, but they answer a lot of questions that the investigators have. The infamous electroshock therapy room. Many footsteps and disembodied voices have been heard within this room. Many have been tortured in this room and died. In the early days of the sanatorium, it's said that many patients were given lobotomies in this room. When those were proven ineffective, they moved on to the torturous electroshock therapy. The experience was nothing less than petrifying for the patients, who experienced fractures, seizures, and severe memory loss, among much brain damage. Some modern visitors have witnessed objects being whipped across the room and cite instances of spirit jumping, where a visitor has felt the touch of a spirit from within their body. St. Albans definitely has a dark history, and I believe it continues to get darker. There's a lot of souls that are still there and they can't leave. So what are your thoughts on St. Albans? Do you have any stories? I'd love to know. Put them in the comments down below. Also, be sure to like and follow for more creepy, spooky, unbelievable content. And if you're coming here from TikTok, I'll see you later, spooky friends, because I post daily.